a decade full of excess and radical moments. It was no different in the hockey world. While life went on at full speed around them, two hockey players were experimenting. They were breaking sticks and inventing new ways to terrorize the opposition. Some say they were also breaking the rules. It was a time that still has an effect on every player who picks up a hockey stick. In truth, it's like trying to identify who threw the first curveball or who was the first to dunk a basketball. By now, the answer has been lost in the mists of time. Former Detroit general manager Jack Adams, for instance, swears his teammate Cy Denny curved his stick. That was with the original Ottawa Senators during the Roaring '20s. But this much we do know. In their never-ending quest to shoot the puck harder, players have experimented with their sticks as long as there's been a puck.
Howe races after, along with Jeffrey, Ullman, to Howe, he's used to score! Gordie Howe has given Detroit the lead, 2-1.
At first, they were limited by the heavy wooden cudgels they used. But when the industry of hockey began experimenting with laminates in the 1940s, a new world began to open. Players found that they could shoot the puck harder and harder. Soon, they discovered that by curving their sticks, they could make the puck dip and dive. Sure, it made it more difficult for the players to control their shots, but it was even harder for the goaltender to stop those shots.
Trying to work in front. He left it there, and Warren gets a break for Chicago, racing down the ice. Going in on goal. He shoots the score! Chicago!
Now, it all sounds simple enough, but at the time, it revolutionized the game. Hockey was still a skating and passing game, but now there was a place for the shooter who could score from long distances. Bernie Boom Boom Geoffrion of the Montreal Canadiens didn't invent the slap shot, but he was the first player to exploit its potential. Others would follow, but the Boomer was first.
To take the lead again in the second period as Geoffrion intercepts a pass by Leswick, beats both Leswick and Benny White, pulls Sawchuk out to score one of the most spectacular goals of the entire series.
Well, they'd all been wrist shots until that point, and they've been sort of floating shots. I mean, most of those guys, well, all of them actually couldn't have played in today's hockey. But at that point, there were wrist shots and little backhanders and things like that, and tip-ins. And he had this big shot that he wound up for, and it just changed the face of the game, because then the shot became the big thing. So it changed it sort of in the way that Babe Ruth changed baseball, going from a singles game to a home run game.
And so as the baseball world followed Ruth, some in hockey would follow Geoffrion's lead and start swinging for the fences. Andy Bathgate of the New York Rangers was one of the early shooting stars, and it's Bathgate who is generally credited with laying the groundwork for the curved stick. The great winger used to soak his sticks in hot water, then leave them crammed in the door of the toilet stall overnight. In time, the Northland stick manufacturer added a fiberglass wrap, and voila, the curve became permanent.
If anybody's played hockey in Winnipeg, you know in the spring that you're playing ball hockey, and because the rinks get melted on one side from the sun, but the other side, it's good. And by that time, the sticks that you've used playing road hockey get a little thin, and you can bend them. And when it was cold, my brother Frank and we'd go to the rink, and he was 3 years older than myself, and he could raise the puck, but I couldn't raise that well. And I felt something's wrong here. And I was shooting left-handed, so then I changed over to right-handed because I thought I got a lot more power, and I started shooting right-handed, and I put a hook in the stick all of a sudden, I lost 2 pucks over the net in the snowbank. And I said, this is it. So I kept shooting and shooting day after day, this right-handed with this hook stick. But then when I went to Guelph, I shot a puck with a wrist shot, and I hit a lady, and it did a lot of damage. And the coach took my sticks, and he said, no, you're not allowed to use that hook stick. And then when I went to New York, I used to go into the Crosby store and hunt for hours to get a stick. People don't understand, like the wood, the grain is so important on the blade, because if it was the wrong way, as soon as you slapped one, the blade would just split and fall back. But if the grain was the other way, it would have support, and it would last indefinitely. And so I'd go there and I'd find these sticks, and they're all basically straight. So I'd get 3 every game, or every time I needed them, and put them in the hottest water I could find, and put them in the toilet, and hook it under the door and put it. And some of them really had big hooks, but as the game went on, they would straighten out on me. And so I had 3. So if I wanted to really let one go, I had to do it early in the period, and then the stick, and then it'd be back to normal again. But and then a fellow by the name of Bob Dill, he said, you know, we're making boats with a certain fabric. He says, maybe I can put a little hook in it, and I'll put this fiberglass on it. I said, that'd be great. I have it at home, as a matter of fact, one of the sticks. And it was just slight curve. And then one day, the trainer in New York, Stan Mikita in Chicago, had an extended road trip, and he gave him 2 of my hook sticks. And he went out and scored 2 goals and 3 assists. Today, Gump Worsley hates me. Yeah. But Gump was very upset, and I wondered where they went. But our trainer, he got a few dollars for it, so I couldn't do much. But that's the truth. And like, I had them in Winnipeg when I was 9, and I don't think Stan was born then. But they went to much more of an extreme hook than I had. I had a slight hook because I liked to be able to handle the puck backhand and forehand.
Coming up, the Chicago duo breaks new ground.
My stick happened to get caught in there, the blade of the stick, and somebody hit me from behind. So I went forward, and I could hear a crunch, and I was hoping it was the stick and not my bones.
As much as Andy Bathgate pioneered the curved stick, it was a pair of Chicago Blackhawks, Stan Mikita and Bobby Hull, who took it to the next level.
Like all great inventions in the history of this world, I think a lot of times these are caused by accidents. And this was probably the greatest accident to ever happen.
Stan Mikita, pound for pound, one of the greatest players that ever played. And the feistiest little rat that ever there was. And back then, if he didn't like his Northland Pro hockey stick, he would lean on it and break it.
We were having a little scrimmage at practice one day, and somebody pushed me into the boards right by our bench. And there was a little slot between the door that swings and the stationary boards. My stick happened to get caught in there, the blade of the stick, and somebody hit me from behind. So I went forward, and I could hear a crunch, and I was hoping it was the stick and not my bones. But anyway, I had a tough time pulling the stick out of there. So finally, somebody opened the door, and out comes the stick, and it's cracked like this in the back side. Now, I'm right-handed, so that would be my backhand side.
So now, Billy Ray is working with the rest of the guys, and Stan and I are up at center ice. And Stan, these Northland sticks, and he's trying to break it. But by then he's only 165 pounds, and the stick is too willowy, and he hasn't got enough weight to break the stick. So he goes over to our bench, jams it in our door, and now he's trying to break it again. Well, what happened? The blade split like this. The bottom of the blade stayed in the door, and the top part sprung out. but he's not finished yet. So he just trying to break that stick, and he bends it almost double like this, still wouldn't break for him. Well, it came out of the door with a hook like this in the blade.
And I looked at it, I said, well, it's cracked on the back, but not in the front. So it was laminated, so I had a few pieces that were still together. And I thought, oh, geez, I got to go all the way downstairs to get another stick, and which is where our dressing room was, because I only brought one stick with me, and there's 21 stairs that I have to go. It's not bad going down, but now towards the end of practice, I got to go back up.
We didn't even know enough to bring up 2 sticks to practice. So the deal was go down, rap on the glass at the end of the rink where the 22 steps were that went down to the basement, to the dressing room. The trainer would come out of the dressing room, come up the stairs part ways, see who it was, go back down to get him a stick.
And I got a little hot at myself. There was a puck laying there in front of me as I'm skating towards the gate, and I slapped it against the boards out of anger. And nothing, for no other reason than that.
Well, while the trainer was on his way back down to get Stanley a new stick, there were a bunch of pucks laying out in front of the net, and here he is out there, popping them in the net, popping them in the net.
And all of a sudden, the sound that I made by hitting the puck and the sound that the puck made hitting the boards was completely different than I had ever heard from my shot before. I take a couple more shots, and then a wrist shot, and finally one more slap shot, and the stick broke.
So I'm standing there at center ice, as I said, I'm watching him, and I said, Stanley's gone completely bonkers. So finally, trainer comes with Stan's stick, and Stan couldn't just give him the old broken stick. He had to try to throw it up on the organ loft.
Anyway, the coach called the practice, and I went down and showered, and I grabbed a half a dozen brand new sticks, and I started bending them under the door. And of course, they'd bend a little bit and they'd crack. I'd get a new one, I'd bend and crack. And finally, the trainer comes in. He said, "Hey, Richard," and I think there's a different name for Richard.
Yes.
So he said, "What are you doing? You're breaking all these sticks. They cost $20 or something," and they did at that time. And I said, "I'm trying to bend it." He said, "Hold on." He said, "Here, take this stick, brand new stick, run it under hot water. Get it pliable, and then you can bend it." I took it, put it under the door, bent it to a certain angle, and I would put the chair to hold the handle. And we left it there, which was a door way in the back nobody was going to use. Next morning I show up, it's all dry, it's sturdy, and in this position. And I taped it the way I normally would. I ran upstairs so nobody would see it. I was the first guy on the ice. I took a slap shot from the red line to the goal, which is like 120 feet approximately. The puck sailed towards the net, and then all of a sudden it was like a jet, just took off. And if that had been in the game, one of the guys in the press row would have got hit. Okay? And I'm going, my God, I could never hoist it that far before with anything. So I tried it again and again, and finally finally found out how I could keep it low enough in play. And I practiced with that for maybe 2 or 3 weeks without anybody seeing me.
So he came back to center ice, and I said, "What the hell were you doing with your stick and popping those pucks in the net?"
So I said, "Well, a couple of weeks ago I broke this thing, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just trying it out." He said, "Make me one of those."
After practice, I'm going to have Northland send me a half a dozen with a little hook in the blade. I said, "Well, while you're at it, have them send me a half a dozen, only hook them the other way." That's when it was either top corner or second balcony. And we just experimented till we found the hook that we liked.
So the rest is history. I make the stick for him. He gets all the glory, which was fine. He was much stronger than I ever dreamt of being.
After the break, a goalie's worst nightmare.
I suppose it was good for the game if you're not a goalkeeper. is one of Bobby Hall's, and I don't know if you get a good look at that, Bryson. It's quite a stick. Bobby gave it to me. This was World Hockey, but they permitted it in World Hockey after the NHL. But before the NHL changed their mind, this is what they had used at that time. And like I keep saying, nobody shot the puck harder than Bobby. And whether this gave him more velocity, I don't know. But I know that you could work the puck with a big curve. You would you could throw it in almost like a knuckleball. And some of the guys were cutting the puck that it'd drop in like a curve or a sinker or whatever you call it.
He was unbelievable. But his was completely different, bend than mine. The angles were different. I found out as a center iceman, you got to use the backhand for a lot of passes, a lot of times. And if it's bent away from you, you're going to lose most of them. So what I did was from the heel up towards the toe, about 2/3 of the way, was straight, and then the last third was bent. So it was more like a question mark type thing. Bobby's was bent right from the heel, and it was like a banana. So now he was strong enough to still be able to use the backhand of his stick where I couldn't.
I remember one of the first games I broadcast out of Montreal. Chicago's in there, and I'd been hearing about this curved stick, and they come on the ice, and oh, geez, there's no way in the world they'll go forehand to backhand and not lose the puck. You know, there's no way in the world they're going to be able to forehand to backhand and put it upstairs. You know, and in the warm-up, you know, Mikita takes the pass from Hull, and Hull had one, you know, almost as bad on his stick, and it goes in on the goalie and gives him this, you know, and then pulls it top corner. So much for that, you know. And they could handle the puck on forehand and backhand as good as with the straight blade. The skills that Mikita had, and that puck would dance. Oh, absolutely dance.
They seem to be able to get better wood on it, and like I say, you know, what I noticed that it would do, you could cut it, and so the shot no longer become true. It was a straight stick. I think it was coming more true, like certainly you get deflection and she'd wobble or something, but with the curve they could intentionally move the puck. Made it more difficult, I suppose, for goalkeepers, and it created more scoring. So in that aspect, I suppose it was good for the game if you're not a goalkeeper.
Line, but not out. Beliveau takes a shot. Another shot by Cornwallis. And down to the ice goes Glenn Hall. The puck going to the corner. Picked up.
Well, Glenn always used to hug the posts during practice because invariably we would try to hit him somewhere. And, you know, Glenn, you're not trying to stop us at all. He says, just shoot it in the net, kid. Go and hit it right there, not at me. Well, when he saw this thing and it was dipping and diving in the knuckleball effect, he skated out of the net. He said, I'm not staying in the net with you guys. He says, why don't you try that on the other teams? And he really meant it. And we did use it on the other teams.
Four gets away from a check. Up he goes to center ice. Up to the leaf line. Flipped it through. Duff stopped it and cleared it out. Here's a chance. A shot. Oh, by Stan Mikita from a pileup in front of the Maple Leaf goal to tie it 1-1.
Bobby, nothing he enjoyed more than shooting the puck. He'd be grinning every time he got good wood on it, and that was 99% of the time because he shot the puck, like I say, like nobody else. And Stan's game was moving the puck more. Like he could shoot the puck also, but like again, it was moving the puck, and it's surprising that he was able to do it with as big a hook as he used. And I don't think he ever used as big a hook as Bobby.
Here's back to Mikita. Mikita over to Bobby Hall. He shoots. Score! Hall finds the target and Chicago leads 1-0 in this first period.
I feel that the 60s was, they didn't shoot as much and more of a checking game, and then the 70s became more wide open because they had these big curved sticks in those days. They never had the half-inch curve. They had like 3-inch curved sticks, and a lot of pucks were flying all over, and it became a game of shooting. There was a lot of that knuckleball stuff and real hard shooting.
Coming up, the curve takes some heat.
I think we got blamed for Jacques Plante being hit in the head with a puck. Here it was Freddie Stanfield that hit him, and his stick was as straight as Davy Keon's.
It didn't take long for the National Hockey League to notice the errant shot. A rule was made to limit the curvature of the stick.
I think we got blamed for Jacques Plante being hit in the head with a puck. And here it was Freddie Stanfield that hit him, and his stick was as straight as Davy Keon's. So we were blamed, wrongly blamed.
Shortly thereafter, the NHL implemented a rule to govern the curvature of the stick.
And then they send in this crew headed up by Dutch Van Deelen. Never heard of him before, never heard of him after. And I don't think he did very much to promote the National Hockey League, okay? So he would come down and stamp. We'd have to have 3 sticks ready for the playoffs. It's 1971 playoffs. Had to have 3 sticks ready, and he would stamp them. Well, of course, he could stamp them all he wanted. As soon as I saw the back of his neck, I was in there with the torch, and I'd fix him the way I wanted.
Not every player believed that a bigger curve was always better.
I thought there's a certain limit that you can go with it. But Stan Mikita, how he could take a draw with the hook that he had on the stick and win it so often, it was unreal. And Bobby, he had a tremendous hook on it too. And I found, I tried a couple of them, but they're almost like a scoop, and the shot was always high. You couldn't keep it low.
Well, Eddie Jockerman finally got somebody's attention at the Rules Committee of the National Hockey League, and there was a rule made about the curvature of the stick. I don't blame him. You wouldn't see me in the net there, especially with no mask, and those guys had to stand in front of that net.
Despite the NHL's best effort to control the curves, players everywhere began to experiment.
I had always had a very heavy stick, but I used a very slight curve. Being a center, I tried to get as much blade as possible because of face-offs. I wasn't concerned about shooting the puck hard. I was more concerned about puck control, passing the puck, and being able to win face-offs. But I can remember seeing and what guys did to sticks back then, because at that time there wasn't any real, when they first came out, there wasn't any half an inch rule or an inch rule. They just went as big as they could and did crazy things to their stick with heat and blow torches and so on and so forth, and to bend these sticks. And they had all sorts of different types of curves, and it would do strange things to the pucks. And a lot of goalies had trouble seeing, following the puck, because the puck would dip and so on and so forth. But it certainly helped the players shoot the puck a lot harder.
Oh, I remember that transition quite a bit, because my stick was really different. And at the forum, we're not allowed to, they call it the torch, to eat our stick and to burn our stick and to arrange it. So I used to bring my stick home the day of a game. I was bringing 3 sticks at home and fix it at home, and after that coming back with my stick at the forum. So I remember quite well. And but I think Bobby Hall and Stan Mikita, they were cheating a bit. I think that's what happened after that. Their hook was too big, and this is what the rule came after to limit the stick at a 1-inch curve.
Getting a break, going right on a goal. He shoots, he scores!
Ivan was one of the last ones to use a slap shot, and he curved his stick a little different than most people. Bobby Hull came up with a big banana blade that actually looked like a banana or even a lacrosse stick. And Ivan Cornway used to bend his on the heel so that he basically had a straight blade, but it was bent in the heel, so he got his angle a little differently. He had one of the greatest wrist shots, I think, ever in the game of hockey, and probably still good could do it today.
Pass for Cornway, number 12. He centers it. Belleville gets it right in front of rolls to the wing. Comes to Harris to Cornway. He shoots and scores!
Next, the curve. Proceed with caution.
I tell kids, this is the bigger the curve and the more it comes off the heel, the farther in the minors you're going to go.
For some, a curved stick didn't necessarily make them a better shooter.
You have to have the feel, okay, of the puck and be able to make that backhand pass or the backhand shot, okay, about an inch ahead of the heel and an inch behind this where the stick starts to curve. That's that much room. Our kids can't handle a puck with the full 12 inches. Can't keep it on the blade of their stick. And these guys had an area about that big, and they could do it.
Canadians in Detroit territory again. J.C. Tremblay shoots. It goes to Cornway. He scores! Montreal 2.
It did a lot of things. Yeah, it would make the puck react. So now you weren't just flipping, you were firing it. And it's sort of like the difference between playing Little League Baseball and Major League Baseball when the pitches come in and all of a sudden they're dipping and darting and sometimes they're knuckleballs. And it takes a lot more skill to make contact with one in baseball, but it took a lot more skill to stop them in hockey because aerodynamically it's just a completely different thing. And then you went to guys as well that instead of just having a curve in a straight vertical blade, started angling the blade as well. And so it became almost like a 7-iron with a bit of a curve in the blade. So you got to a point, some guys simply could not handle other players' sticks. Al McInnes, for instance, had a stick like that for a while. And no one else could shoot with that stick except Al. And then obviously if he had to hand his stick to someone, or else if somebody grabbed a McInnes stick going by after having broken his own stick off a player, it was just lost because it was a very unusual stick. But players started trying to adapt their sticks a lot more to the situation and to make the puck do things.
Back to the point, McInnes moving in, shot score!
Nobody understood this better than Hull. When he jumped to the WHA in 1972, he made it a precondition that the maximum curve would be kept at least at a healthy 1.5 inches. Others, of course, would follow his lead in the NHL and the minors.
Yeah, I had a little taste of that. I was like every other kid. I wanted to get a curved stick, and my dad went out and bought me one with a wicked banana on it like this. And when I got out on the ice, I couldn't handle a puck at all. I was, had grown up using a straight stick, and I was probably 8 or 10 years old. And I think he did it on purpose. He went out and got the biggest curve he could find, knowing that I'd have trouble handling the puck. So that didn't last very long. Once I had an opportunity to try to handle it and maneuver with it and realized it was a problem, I went back to the straight stick.
to Gretzky, right side. Now to Robitaille, to Nichols, to Taylor. He scores!
Trying to beat Lidstrom. Hemsky did. Backhander. Great stop by Hasek.
But now the goaltenders are going down with the spread eagle there, and so you have to get it up higher. But I don't know, not too many people are using the wrist shot, and that's the one. If I was a defenseman, I'd make every guy go on his backhand, because I know he's not going to shoot much from there. But you know, it's sort of one-dimensional. You know, where you used to come down and you'd fake one way and pass it the other, but now everybody has to get it on their forehand almost.
Well, I think that you know, the curve and the stick, it was very drastic at the beginning, where the curve was, you know, like this, and the puck would come in and it would hit one side, the other side, and come out like a knuckleball. And you know, if you saw Bobby Hull shoot it, or Dennis Hull, or a lot of guys, that ball becoming like a knuckleball, and they weren't sure which way it would come out of the blade. That was dangerous. Okay, curves really were a benefit to the game. Today's game. You know, if you have what they've developed is what's called a heel curve, where the blade's coming off the heel like this, and if people have a heel curve or a big curve, basically they have no backhand skills, no backhand pass. They become a one-dimensional player. And I tell kids, this is the bigger the curve and the more it comes off the heel, the farther in the minors you're going to go. Because if you don't have a backhand pass or a backhand shot, you're one-dimensional. You can't do anything.
To draw, to shot. It's trickles in. It's knocked away. Park with it. Scores! Brad Park wins the game. Brad Park, a rebound, and the Bruins win 3-2.
Coming up.
Is the referee leaves the stick in the penalty box, and that's where it is now.
It wasn't just the size of the curve that changed over time. With the advent of new lightweight materials like graphite and aluminum, hockey sticks began to change dramatically.
Well, I think in the mid-90s, most of the companies that we deal with started experimenting with carbon graphite products. And they originally started as a two-piece stick. Actually, it was Easton with aluminum hockey stick, an aluminum handle and a wooden blade. And it kind of evolved and caught up with other technical sports like tennis or golf, in the sense that these companies also started experimenting with carbon graphite shafts. So they went from aluminum, then they went to carbon graphite. And but they're called composite shafts because they're made up of, you know, each company has their own technical formula per se, or recipe that they use. But it started as an aluminum stick, went to a composite two-piece stick, which had a carbon graphite shaft and a wooden blade. Eventually went to a two-piece stick, which was a carbon graphite shaft and a carbon graphite blade. And from there, they joined them and they called them one piece, which were typically two-piece sticks because they were joined at the hosel. And some companies actually do have a genuine one-piece stick, which is the product is one piece right through.
I think you're gaining advantages with the composite stick to wood, and I think you lose a few things. I think obviously the feel and maybe the damping ability of a wood stick. We know when a puck hits it, it's softer, and there's probably a little more control with it in that sense. But to me, it's sort of the consistency, I think, that a composite stick has as compared to a wood stick. I think the wood that was maybe put into those sticks at times could be heavy, could be light, could be brittle, or, you know, it varied a lot. And when you get the composite sticks, for the most part, they're pretty consistent in how they come. I think there is definitely a little more snap to them, maybe on wrist shots and things like that. But at the same time, when you're trying to control passes, it maybe does take a little more effort than with a wood stick.
Niedermeyer quickly the other way with Perry. Give and go, drop pass to Bertuzzi. Spins it. Oh, there's Niedermeyer. He scores! What a great passing play as Perry found the defenseman at the bottom of the left circle.
And the shot by Holton, stop, rebound, score! Maxime Talbot diving to the loose puck, backhands it in, and the Penguins make it 2-1.
At the start of this decade, manufacturers came out with one-piece composite sticks. However, they continue to experiment. The sticks are favored by some players, but not all.
Dandino in behind the net. A bouncing puck comes to Bouillon, gets the shot, scores! Bouillon caught it, dropped it, and lit the lamp.
Well, it's made of, I think the material they use is made for airplane company. And each company have their own procedure, I think. Some are made in Japan and Europe. Some are made in California, Mexico. So they all have their own recipe, which at the end of the day, it's pretty much the same sticks, But the feeling is a little different. And as you know, they all use their own curve. They all have their own pattern. The lie is different, the curve is different, the width of the blade. And players are very, very picky about that, about their sticks.
Yeah, sometimes I use the 5 sticks in the game. I like to work on my sticks, change lies, change the curves. Sometimes I use a different stick on the penalty killing, sometimes a different stick on the power play, but just me, and I like to work on my sticks. I spend a lot of time. I know sometimes the sticks should be sent to you like the way you want it, but I always like to touch them, and it's me. And after all, when I'm done, I paint them to the black because my sticks come in the black. When you shave them, you basically see wood on the bottom, and you see I paint that and just make sticks, and I am really picky about sticks.
Back in front. Oh, they go to help her. Back in the line, Gonchar. Longer, one-time shot, score!
So the sticks have changed, but the rules that govern them have also changed over time. In response to Hull and Makita, the NHL originally enforced a maximum curve of ½ inch in 1966-67. In 68-69, the maximum was increased to 1.5 inches.
Back to Makita. Makita over to Bobby Hull. He shoots, scores! Hull finds the target, and Chicago leads 1-0 in this first period.
The curve was reduced to 1 inch in 69-70. Then back to ½ inch in 70-71. It was changed again in 2006-2007 to 3/4 inch to increase scoring. If a player exceeds the limit, a minor penalty is assessed. If a team asks for the measurement of an opposition player's stick, and that stick is found to be legal, the team that asked for the measurement is given a bench minor. In the '93 Stanley Cup Final, the LA Kings were leading Montreal 2-1 late in the third period of Game 2 and about to take a 2-0 stranglehold on the series when Montreal coach Jacques Demers called for a stick measurement on Kings defenseman Marty McSorley. The stick was illegal.
Illegal, and I also mentioned that Shipnick's and McSorley's stick looked to be close to illegal too, and they're now going to take a look at McSorley's. It's a 2-minute penalty to LA if it's illegal, and it's a 2-minute penalty to Montreal if it's fair. And Marty McSorley, if he uses an illegal stick, which he did, and there's no excuse for that.
The tip-off is the referee leaves the stick in the penalty box, and that's where it is now. An illegal stick. Jacques Demers waiting for this moment. 1:45 remaining. 2-1 Los Angeles.
You always worry about...
The Habs scored on the subsequent power play, sending the game into overtime, where they evened the series.
Ronan coming up there. Ronan carries in. Ronan in front of the net. Shot.
Montreal went on to win the next 3 games and the Stanley Cup. Coming up, a new generation of the stick emerges.
Evolution of the stick, Grayton, we started to use a composite and the one-piece sticks, and you definitely don't see too many wood sticks around anymore.
The majority of today's sticks are made specifically for each player.
Malkin with another great move. Here's Malkin getting himself free. He scores! What a goal by Evgeny Malkin!
But even when they get the molds from the manufacturer, some players still like to apply some finishing touches themselves.
I mean, it kind of changed from year to year, but went with a little bit of a softer stick this year. A little more feel, a little more flex, so you can feel the puck a little bit. When they first came out, it was hard to get used to the feel of it, but they do a nice job of with the one-piece sticks that have enough feel in them, and the shots are coming in harder. At least that's what the goalies are saying.
Behind the net, back to Staios. Staios drives, scores! Steve Staios let it fly, and the Oilers get the early jump.
I used wood in minor hockey back before they had the one-piece synergies, and back then they were $300 a piece, so it was tough for our parents to afford them. So I definitely did use the wooden ones in minor hockey, but as the evolution of the stick, Grayton, we started to use a composite and the one-piece sticks, and you definitely don't see too many wood sticks around anymore.
Knocked away by Malone, and here is Stamkos in alone. He shoots, scores! A breakaway pass for Stamkos.
When I was in college, actually, my first couple of years, it was hard getting sticks sent in because, it goes to pro level and then it goes down. And college was, more towards the bottom, so you have to wait for your stick to get in. And if the curve was wrong, then you have to resend it back in and wait for your stick to come back. And, the process was obviously a lot longer. So, you used to torch it up and try to bend it as much as you could that the blade wasn't soft enough that it would crack. And it was miserable. It was miserable, trying to get the right curve for you, the one that you felt most comfortable with. And, that's the advantage nowadays of finding a curve that you like and having a company that can make it for you.
Mark Pouliot in the corner. Plays it back to Surrey with room to tee and fire rebound, and Gilbert scores! Todd Gilbert gets the goal.
I use the synergy. And why? Because it's cool. I think I'm not a player that likes to change my sticks or do my sticks before a game. It probably gives me the easiest stick to, all I have to do is change the plug, cut it down, and tape it up. And, I don't care about the curve as long as it's not too big. And, like I said, I just don't like doing sticks. I hate doing it. I don't like when they break, and I don't like taping them up, so it's probably the easiest way to do it.
If I was a guy that took a lot of one-timers and was shooting a puck from everywhere, I'd have a bigger curve. You see Ovechkin, he's got he's got a pretty big curve, but it's suitable to his type of game where he's shooting the puck a lot. And for me, I like the small curve because when you're playing center, you got to be able to dish the puck on your backhand, on your forehand, and do it quickly. And
Here's Gagne coming in on Habibul, and Gagne goes to the forehand deep, scores!
if you have a big curve, it's tougher to do that. And it's not only about being able to handle the puck. You can go out there with a big curve and be able to handle the puck, but it's the pace of the NHL game is so fast that you got to be able to make plays in tight spaces and really quickly, and I find that tougher to do with a bigger curve. I've tried to use a bigger curve and it just doesn't work for me. So I feel that using the smaller curve is something I've gotten pretty used to over the years, and it'll be tough for me to change now.
So for Gagne, it's back to the future with his curve. And somewhere, Cy Denneny, Andy Bathgate, Stan Mikita, and Bobby Hull are probably thinking, kid, you don't know what you're missing. The day that someone, somewhere, came up with the idea to curve his stick is a day that changed the game.